So AI is getting crazy smart, right? And that's creating this huge question mark over the whole idea of a college degree. I mean, think about it. If a machine can churn out a perfect essay in seconds, what does your diploma, the one you worked so hard for, actually mean? Well, today, we're going to dig into a pretty wild proposal that thinks it has the answer.
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi scenario. This is happening right now. It's the big question that's keeping a lot of people in education up at night. Because when you can't tell the difference between human work and AI work, the value of that piece of paper just evaporates. So the real question is, how do you prove you actually did the work? How do you prove you actually learned?
All right, let's get into the weeds here. The folks behind this whole idea have a name for this problem. They call it the AI authenticity crisis. And really, it's just a fancy way of saying there's a huge and growing disconnect between what a transcript claims a student knows and what they can actually do in the real world.
And this right here, this lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the classic human effort, right? We're talking hours of research, writing, thinking, banging your head against the wall. And on the other side, the AI shortcut. A few seconds for a prompt, a minute to generate, a quick edit. The end result might look identical, but that whole process, the actual learning, is just gone. That's the crisis in a nutshell.
So, this crisis really boils down to three big problems. First, you've got AI plagiarism, which is obvious. You just don't know who or what did the work. Then there's grade inflation, where an A in one class means something totally different than an A somewhere else. But the big one, the really scary one, is the skill gap. Your transcript might say you got an A in Chem 101, but does that mean you can actually be trusted not to blow up the lab? Probably not.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, the idea here is to completely change what we're measuring. Forget just looking at the final grade on an essay. The goal is to track and verify the entire journey a student takes to get there. It's a whole new concept called proof of learning.
And this is where the Athenaeum Protocol comes in. So what is it? Basically, think of it like a super secure shared digital ledger that's spread all across campus. It's built on a blockchain, which just means no single person or department can control or change it. Its entire purpose is to watch and record every single academic step you take, creating this bulletproof, unfakeable record of your actual work.
So how does this actually work on the ground? Well, it's kind of like wiring up the whole campus. First, every student would get a new smart ID with biometrics, which is also their personal digital wallet. Then, you'd have little sensors or beacons in places like libraries and labs to prove you're actually there. And it all connects to the online stuff you're already using, like Canvas, to log all your digital work. It's about creating a complete 360-degree view of your learning.
Okay, so all that tech, the IDs, the sensors, it all powers this new system for measuring what you've learned. The creators call it the 147 academic economy. Now that sounds complicated, but all it really is a system that uses digital tokens to reward real, measurable progress instead of just slapping a letter grade on something.
And this quote from the white paper really gets to the heart of it. The economy of the network is an economy of growth. What they're saying is, this isn't about creating a high-tech gotcha system to catch cheaters. It's about shifting the entire focus to tracking a student's development over time. It's all about the process, not just the final product.
So, let's break down that 147 structure. The 1 is for the one main token that ties everything together. It's called the Alma Mater Index, or $ALMA for short. And you can pretty much think of this as the new GPA, but way, way smarter. The 4 stands for the 4 universal pillars that support that main token. And these are the core skills that, according to this system, every single student should master. It doesn't matter if you're a poet or a physicist, these 4 things are non-negotiable.
And finally, the 7. These are the 7 dynamic sectors. Think of these as the raw materials of your education, the actual stuff you do, the places you go. The key word here, and this is really important, is dynamic. What that means is, these tokens change their meaning based on what your major is.
So just to be super clear on this main token, the ALMA is designed to be your new live transcript. It's not just a single number like a GPA that sits on a piece of paper. It's a living, breathing record of everything you've done, your classes, your projects, even your ethical conduct.
And here are those 4 pillars. You can really see how broad this system is. Cognition, that's your classic book smarts, right? Theory, thinking. Application is the hands-on stuff, putting theory into practice. But then it gets really interesting. It also measures citizenship, things like ethics and integrity, and even wellness, which looks at stuff like your attendance and resilience. It's about the whole person.
Okay, now this is where this system gets, I think, really, really clever. Remember those 7 dynamic sector tokens? They act like empty buckets. What you have to do to fill up the facilities bucket, for example, is totally different if you're studying computer science versus, say, fine arts.
And this chart just makes it crystal clear. Just look at the token for facilities, which they call lab. For a computer science student, earning that token means verified server time. For an art student, it's hours in the studio. And for a nursing student, it's time spent in the simulation lab. See, it's the exact same token, but it understands the context of your major. It's pretty smart.
All right, so you've spent years on campus, you've been collecting all these different sector tokens, but how does all that actually become a diploma? Well, that's where the crypto concept of minting comes into the picture. It's a process they call the capstone mint, and the idea is simple. To graduate, you have to burn or spend the sector tokens you've collected. It's kind of like you've been earning tickets in an arcade for 4 years, and now it's time to cash them in for the big prize, the pillar tokens you need for your degree.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine you're a biology student, and you need to earn that application pillar token to graduate. The rule is you have to burn $500 lab tokens. But here's the kicker. You only get those tokens if the sensors in the biology lab have verified that you were physically there for 500 hours. So if you just sat at home and had an AI write all your lab reports, well, you have 0 tokens. You can't mint the pillar, and you can't graduate. Simple as that. There's no way to fake it.
And a system has some other built-in ways to keep things honest. Worried about someone paying a friend to take their exam? The system could use biometric verification to make sure it's really you. And what about those AI essays? There's something called a deep work oracle that doesn't just look at the final essay, it watches how it was made. If a 10-page paper just appears out of nowhere in 30 seconds, yeah, the system is going to notice.
Okay, let's pull back for a second and think about the big picture here. What would this actually mean for students, for colleges, and for employers if it ever became a reality? It would literally change everything.
Well, for employers, it's a total game changer. Suddenly, that degree isn't just a piece of paper with a GPA on it. It's a living CV. They could see a verifiable record that you've mastered Python, that your teammates consistently rated you as a great collaborator, that you have a spotless ethics record, and that you physically spent 500 hours in a lab. Hiring would become so much more about actual proven skills.
And don't think this is all just a wild idea on paper. There's actually a roadmap for how to roll this out. It would start small, maybe with just one testing center at one university. Then it would expand to cover lab-based courses, then entire departments with smart syllabuses, with the ultimate goal of becoming a global standard that anyone, anywhere could verify.
And that really brings us to the biggest question of all. On the one hand, a system that verifies everything could absolutely fix the trust problem in education. But a system that tracks your location, your computer usage, your everything, that sounds a whole lot like total surveillance, doesn't it? So what do you think? Is this the brilliant future we need, or is it a dystopian nightmare we should run away from as fast as we can?